Right now, the world is changing faster than many of us can process, not just because of AI, but because of many other components. And in practical terms, at work, roles are shifting, and that's certainly important for us to notice. But also, consciousness as a whole is shifting. And again, as part of both, what it means to be successful is shifting. And what it means to have meaningful success has been shifting for quite a while, right? And in the middle of all this change, there's a question that's really worth asking. Who are you underneath the identity you have built? So today I want to talk about the difference between identity and essence and why peeling back the layers of who you are or who you think you are might be the most important work you can do this year. Think about who you were 10 years ago. Mm, Maybe the job title, the role in your family, the way you described yourself at a party or at a networking event. Some of that is probably no longer all too relevant right now. You will probably agree that you have changed and you would describe yourself differently now. And what you said just a decade ago might even almost sound unrecognizable to you. Because identity was never fixed. You've been the kid, the student, the new hire, maybe at some point, the founder, the leader, the partner, the parent, and maybe even all of the above at different points of your life. And each one felt completely true while you were living it, or at least for the most part. And each one eventually started fading out and it started giving way to the next identity. And it's not that we slip from one into the next. Of course, there are transitions that are happening, right? And identities are not delineated yeah, they're not like bodies. Here's this identity and here's that identity. That's not how that goes. It changes gradually. Parts of your identity are shifting. But yeah, so fact is that each one eventually started fading out, as I said before. And that's not a bad thing. That's just how identity works. It's built layer by layer in response to what life asks of you. And also, though, in response to the influences you're exposed to and to the inner work you do or don't do. Now, here's a part that can sometimes get quite uncomfortable when it comes to identity changes. The identity you are wearing right now, the hardworking leader maybe, or the person who has it together, or the one everyone relies on, or whatever it is for you, it might already be a few sizes too small for who you have become, or rather for who you've always been. And that's now coming more and more to the surface as you're moving along in your life, right? And growing through your life and through your experiences and through your reflections, through your uh, mindfulness, through whatever is relevant for this process in your particular case. And when that happens, you usually feel it before you can name it. You're not saying, oh, today I've outlived my previous identity. That's not what usually happens. But what often happens is that a slight restlessness starts appearing, right? It shows up even on your best days, or an anxiety that doesn't even match your circumstances. There's no obvious reason for it. It comes seemingly out of nowhere, or a sense of just being slightly out of sync with your own life, even when everything looks quite right and quite perfect from the outside. It's this feeling that something is off, but you cannot put your finger on it. You can't really figure out what it is. If you feel like that, then there's nothing wrong with you. I want to say that right away. And you're also not ungrateful. Very important to remember. This has nothing to do with being ungrateful. You could be very grateful and still have those symptoms, right? Because it's really just a symptom of misalignment. It's the gap between who you're being and who you actually are. What do I mean by that? Who you're showing to be, right? Who you're showing up as, and who you're perceived as. And so it's this gap between who you're being and who you actually are, who you are now and who you've always been, below the layers of all those identities that you've taken on over time, and some of which you've already shedded. Is it shed? No, shit. Again. So you connect your identity with your image or reputation. That's what usually happens, right? Not just in business, but also outside of work. So it's not that easy to disconnect from an identity that you have outgrown. And that's why there's this conflict of this anxiety of, yes, this is no longer me, on the one hand, and then this resistance on the other, because that's your image, that's your reputation, that's how people know you, that's how you have known yourself lately, right? But part of why this is so hard to untangle is that your identity isn't just an internal thing. It's tied to your image, as I just said, and to your reputation, right? And in all areas of your work, of your life, sorry, of your life. And it has to do with the way colleagues introduce you or friends introduce you, the way your family expects you to show up because they know you like that, right? The way you've been, the, for example, again, the way you've been the reliable one or the ambitious one or the responsible one or the one that's always there for everyone. That's been so much a part of you for so long that people would probably be confused if you weren't that anymore. They they might still recognize you because of your physical appearance, sorry, but they would be confused if you changed. And that's what makes it uncomfortable for you to step into this shift. Because this identity that feels so like you, it feels like the truth of who you are, but it's not something fixed you were born with. It's something you built over time. It's a product of beliefs you absorbed. Every environment you moved through contributed to it. It's a product of every person who told you, directly or indirectly, who you should be. So some of this identity you may have chosen intentionally, right? But a lot of it is also just accumulated automatically. So you could say it's an identity that you shaped, but also an identity that shaped itself over time. It was influenced by your environment, by the people you interacted with, by all of that, by your own experiences. And that's why letting go of an outdated identity can feel like losing yourself, like losing a piece of you, even when it's actually the opposite. Because you're not losing yourself. You're losing a version of yourself you built to survive, to protect yourself in some way, or to succeed in a season that's already over now, in a chapter of your life that's now finished. So, what do you do with an identity that's outgrown its usefulness? You shed it. You let go of it. And for some aspects that you are there in this identity, you need to actually actively dissolve them. Okay? Because they're not like just, it requires a little bit more work sometimes. So, for example, those sticky beliefs, the stuck emotions, the habits that no longer serve you. Oftentimes we don't just say, oh, I'm done with this and it's gone. So sometimes we need to do a little more work here. But it's also important to have that awareness first that those habits were actually just protection or performance of sorts. And maybe you picked them up from someone else and and you took them on as your own. Maybe you inherited them from your parents or whoever it is. What I'm talking about is not a dramatic reinvention. It's actually deeper than an external reinvention. It's not just like a job change or moving to a different location, as if that weren't hard enough sometimes, right? But it's really more honest than that. It goes deeper. It's noticing that a belief like I have to earn rest, or a belief like if I'm not achieving, I'm not valuable, and asking whether it's actually true or whether it's just no longer credible. It's no longer your truth. It might even be complete BS, right? So we all take stuff on that makes no sense, mostly on a subconscious level. So looking at our subconscious is key here. So you can let go of what no longer serves you, what no longer serves your goals, your desires, your next chapter. Dissolving what was never really very useful in the first place. This is what this is about. And that's what creates the space for what comes next. Once you've cleared some of that old identity stuff out, you're not left with nothing. A vacuum never persists, right? But you are now left with room so you can do something with it before it fills itself up. And you can now use this room, the space, to decide on purpose this time what you actually want to believe about yourself. Maybe it's, I can succeed without burning out. Maybe it's, my worth isn't tied to my achievements or to my output. I'm infinitely worthy just because I am. Or maybe it's my birthright to explore my own desires and make experiences that are aligned with them, that are related to my desires, to what I want. Whatever it is for you, this is where the real confidence comes from in the end. It comes over time. Confidence does not come from proving yourself over and over. It might feel like confidence. It might contribute a little bit. But if that need to prove yourself doesn't go away, then that's not true confidence. It's actually the opposite, right? Confidence comes from finally believing something about yourself that is actually true and that is actually you. That can be many things, but it's really about recognizing your essence. What is that core of you? And so when you go through this shift, it also gives you opportunity to change your subconscious filters going forward. Because often it's not enough, as I said before, to simply declare something, even though that has value and it can sometimes be a great trigger for positive change. Okay. But yeah, sometimes we need to go a bit deeper. And that often requires working with someone who knows how to guide us through those processes, through this transformation. I do that too from time to time, and I can only recommend it, not just from my own experience when somebody works with me, but from the transformation and the results my clients get when they dare to go deep during our coaching time together, when they really dare to stand up to this and to say yes to this transformation when they don't just stay at the surface. So here's a piece I would like you to walk away with. None of this is about becoming a different person. You're not reinventing yourself from scratch. You're not becoming someone else. Very important. This whole becoming thing has become quite a, quite a, I don't know, quite a fashion, whatever. It's become like ah, this thing, right? But no, you're not becoming someone else. You're uncovering more of who you already were underneath all of it, underneath all of your identities, your essence, or call it your core if you prefer. The part of you that existed before anything else, before the titles, before the reputation, before you learned what you had to be accepted or to be successful, that essence, that's always been there. That essence hasn't changed, even while your identity has changed a dozen times over. And as the world keeps moving, and it keeps moving faster every day, especially now that AI keeps redefining what work even looks like and all of that, that essence is the one thing that stays steady enough to build from. It's the one thing that doesn't change. And you're invited to uncover more of it. It's becoming even more important to focus on that essence in these times because AI has now also become an influencing force, right? Or rather, an influencing tool. And you don't want to be controlled by that, do you? So if you've been feeling that restlessness lately, that anxiety, or however it shows up for you, that sense of being disconnected from yourself or just out of step with your own life somehow, it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means that you have simply outgrown your identity and you are still carrying this identity around with you. Your body is still wearing it. So again, the invitation is not to become someone else. It's to peel back the layers, layer by layer, and meet who's already there. And a good place to start is the invisible success trap audit that I created. It's a quick way to see exactly where the trap might be showing up for you right now. and where the gap is between your current identity and who you actually are underneath it, so that you can enjoy that success that you're creating every day. You can enjoy that again. The link to the audit is in the description. Take 5 minutes with it.